I wanted to do a little video about the wiring on this 1990 Evinrude 140 VRO, which the VRO pump has been disabled by the previous owner, and I am just going to leave it disabled. They put a bolt in where the oil goes in, but the harness was all apart, all in just a big wad of wires, and my dad sent me a wiring diagram, so I got most of it figured out. I figured out which the trim was disabled, and I figured out which ones were them. I shrink wrapped them. I'm not sure what this connector is for. It's a male 2-prong, and there was nothing female on the harness itself, and key switch was no good, so this is the end where the key switch comes out, and I bought another one from Napa with the push button choke and the safety switch, which I have with the alligator vice grips on there, just so I could test it out. And I got the console done, and I found this 1.25 inch it's a vacuum or a bilge pump hose or a house pump hose, so it makes for a nice wire loom. I sliced it all the way down the middle, and I'm going to run the wires down the corner along that bump out there right into the console. So I'm going to mount a couple of switches in the console, and the remote trim switch came out and is this green wire and blue wire with a stripe, one's up, one's down, and the red wire was power, but the guy cut the line before. If you can see it right there, that red wire, he had cut it, and I don't know why, but either way, so I'm just going to run power from the battery switch to these two wires, and then they go to the relay box here, and that's what controls the trim. So, and trim motor needs new fluid, needs to be flushed and put proper fluid in there. It looked like they put ATF or something red in there. So I don't even know if this thing runs. I'm really hoping it does. So anyway, I got most of the wiring figured out. Just have to get it all run at this point. I'm wondering whether or not I should re-enable the VRO pump. I don't know. And I haven't gotten cables for it yet, but I'm going to use Red Jacket 33C cables. I bought a control cable adapter for this motor, so it goes onto the throttle and transmissions down here. So that should be pretty simple. And I made these little covers out of aluminum for where the wires and the control cables go in. Just kind of made a pattern out of cardboard and did it that way, so that works. But right now I'm gonna mount this is my trim switch, just a heavy-duty momentary switch I got off eBay for a couple dollars, and this is the heavy-duty battery switch, which is going to be mounted inside the console. It's got 2 posts on the bottom. There's part number there if anyone wants something similar to this. It was also a couple dollars, and it's pretty heavy duty. Also, the warning horn on this motor didn't work, so I had no way to test it. But I wanted to test these temperature switches in the heads. There's 2 of them, one over here and one over here. And basically, I've read that if the horn's hooked up and the keys turned on without the motor running, if you ground one of these switches, the horn should go off, and when you turn the key first, the horn should beep once to let you know that the horn's working. There's also an insufficient oil sensor, which I'm imagining is one of these signal wires off the VRO pump, and that system's been disabled, so there's no way to test that. But I really I figured out that the horn was bad, but I really wish there was a more clear way on how to test those temperature sensors. I read something where you can pull them out and heat oil up and rest them in oil and test continuity between the switch, because it's apparently just a simple switch that activates at a certain temperature. So I wanted this console to be somewhat waterproof, so the only switch that's going to be mounted externally is a trim switch, which I think I'm going to mount right here. Everything else is going to be mounted inside the console. I welded that little plate there, and the battery switch is going to go at the top, and then the key switch and light switch for the bow and the stern light, and we'll probably do LEDs inside the duct blind when I get that done. And the battery will go in here, so and all the wires will be run along that edge. All the wires, the steering lines, the hydraulic lines, and the wires and everything, I'll pop it in the console right about there. So this is what I was planning on doing. I just put an 1¼ inch hole there and stuffed this tube in, and I don't have battery cables yet, so I can't finalize anything, but I got these conduit holders from Home Depot, and that's how I'm going to hold it up. So it should be nice and clean. Shouldn't be able to get any moisture inside the line, so I'm going to run that all the way down and in the corner. And I hope this 1¼ inch tubing is big enough for the hydraulic lines and the steering cables as well as the battery cables, but I'm imagining it's not going to be. But once this is secure, I can run one or the other over top of it and just zip tie it to this, so that's nice and secure. So I just got done putting in the battery switch. I can turn the light off, I guess. There's the battery switch and the key switch, and there's a little toggle switch on the right there, and there's room for other switches if we want to put them in, but it's all out of the weather, and I got this harness just stuffed in here for now. I'm going to end up probably shortening that harness because it's pretty long, but you know, you'll be able to open the door and turn the battery on or off and start the motor, you know, and then you can close the door when you're done, when everything's running. And these Morse controls I got, or the Teleflex controls, they came with a safety switch, so there are the yellow wires there for the safety switch. You can hear it engage when the motor's in neutral, but hear that little, so that's pretty cool. So nobody can start the motor with it in gear. And I'm waiting on battery cables, and I'm waiting on bolts for the steering cylinder, and I guess I can mount this trim switch. I'm nervous about this trim switch because it's see if I can get it to focus, but the hole is not round, it's squared there, and that's to keep it from spinning, because this is a momentary switch up and down, and so I don't really know how to how to drill a square hole. So alright, I got the trim switch mounted too, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna have to 5200 it when I go to wire it, but that's pretty much her. It's a heavy duty switch, so that's out of the way, and I didn't want to put it over here or on the side because somebody bumped into it. So she's on there. So that's pretty much it for now until I get some more stuff. So if anyone advises me to turn the VRO pump back on, or how to test it, or should I just rebuild it, or any other things before I get this pig started, you know, I'm going to do a couple dry runs and fog it and change the lower unit oil and, you know, lube everything that I can. But if anybody else has any tips for me, you know, the guy I bought it from said that it's a great motor. It was just too much for him, and it should move this boat pretty good. So this is a 24-foot Carolina Skiff, and not much weight to it, but I'm sure there's water in the floor, underneath the floor in these things. There's where the old console was, and the seat was right there. So try not to put any more holes in the bottom than I have to. So that's all for now.